everyone, and welcome to Let's Play It By Ear podcast. I am your host, Joanna, with my co-host, Carrie. Say hello, Carrie.
Hello.
All right, what are we talking about today? Today, we are talking about getting paid. Yes, the first part, actually, of getting paid. We have a few more installments of this. So today in particular, we're going to be talking about gigging. So what to expect, our stories, how to, what's the word? How to present yourself, basically. And also the actual getting paid part. And we will be talking a little bit about our encounter with learning about taxes. Fun adult things.
The sarcasm?
Yes. Okay, so first, let's talk the fun part, which are the gigs themselves.
Yes.
Do you remember your first gigs? What was your most memorable gig? Do you remember how all that went down?
Sort of. I remember the first gig that I did was I think I was in second year of undergrad. It was a Gilbert and Sullivan musical. Sorry, Gilbert and Sullivan opera.
Right.
That we did. I can't remember if it was paid, but it was definitely a gig because there was a honorarium. So that was when I first started earning money for playing. It was a really special feeling. It's like, oh, I finally get to do something that I love and also get to make a bit of money out of that.
Yep. Oh.
That was my first. How about yours?
First? So, I don't remember if this was my first paid gig, but I recall doing a very strange one where I was asked to play in a park outside.
For something, hopefully?
I think so. I don't remember how this went down, but I remember being paid $75 to do this.
Wow.
To just play in a park. I don't remember what I played, but I remembered a very strange encounter where some guy came along and thought I was absolutely entrancing. He was a photographer. So he ended up, I think, recording me playing some of it and then took pictures of me and then somehow got my contact info and dropped off a CD of like a slideshow of me playing and along with, I think, me playing flute. And then I never heard from him ever again.
That's definitely something.
Yeah, it was a very strange experience. My family thinks that he really was just being nice. But it was very weird. Yeah. And yeah, I do recall being paid for this though. I think I recall getting the check and for $75. That was pretty exciting. That part was exciting. But I just recall feeling so weird from this gig that I was like, are all gigs this weird? Like, are people this weird? Like, during gigs, Like, yeah. It was weird.
That's definitely a very interesting first experience then.
Yeah. That's the first experience that I can recall, that is.
Okay.
Like, I'm not sure if it's my first experience, but it definitely was the first one I could recall. It was weird. Yeah.
Well, then, I mean, referring to our notes, let us be the first to say not all gigs are created equal.
No.
We may not be the first to say, but let us say. Yeah. They're not all the same.
What was the weirdest one you've done?
Off the top of my head, I don't think I recall any gigs that were particularly weird,
Mhm.
although I may correct myself later. I don't know.
I mean, if you think of it, tell it.
Yeah. No, as far as I can remember, all the gigs that I've done so far are pretty sane.
Like, what types of gigs do you end up usually doing?
Well, I think because being a bassoonist, there's not much, like I can't really play outdoors. Um,
Mm-hmm.
or we don't usually play outdoors, and
Yeah.
I'm happy to try
Right. Yeah.
if anyone out there wants a bassoonist to
I
try,
know, right?
provided that it's not raining,
Yep. 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 Yep.
or snowing.
Mm-hmm.
Um, I mostly do orchestral gigs,
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
like with established
Yep.
ensembles.
Yep. You did PAX though. Do you count
I
that
won't
as a gig?
exact. No, not really.
Because was that mostly done just for fun?
Yeah, it was because a friend organized it, and it wasn't really for that organization anyway.
Got it.
If it was on their main
Yeah.
stage, yes, I would count that as a gig.
Right. Right.
But because it's organized through a friend
Mm-hmm.
and she was one who set up
Yeah.
the things, and like, not exactly.
Right.
No.
And you weren't like paid for it or anything, right? Was it just for fun?
Yeah,
Yeah.
more or
Got
less.
it. But your paid gigs are all orchestral then.
Yeah, pretty much.
Do you remember your first paid orchestral gig?
Um, my first, well, the orchestras that I play with, the Vancouver Metropolitan,
Mm-hmm.
that was one of the first gigs that I did. And then Vancouver Opera,
Oh man.
which was my first experience down in the pit professionally.
Oh.
And that was when I realized my eyesight had worsened.
Oh no, really? That's when
Yeah,
you found out?
yeah, that prompted me to go get my eyes checked actually, because
Oh.
my prescription was out of date.
Mm. Mm-hmm.
So musicians out there who need eyeglasses, please make sure you get your eyes tested.
Yes.
It's
It's
important, especially
important.
when you're dark in a dark pit, down in a dark pit.
Yes. Yes. Agree. Agree. Yep. Yep. Yep.
And then with the Vancouver Symphony.
Mm.
So just your regular orchestras.
And do you remember like getting your first check from them and seeing that it's like from
Yeah.
them and addressed to you? Was that
Yes.
like super exciting?
Seeing your extra musician employee ID on that. It's like, ooh, it's pretty special.
Yeah. Oh my gosh, that's amazing. I think it's a similar experience to when I got my first check from the Flute Center of New York. Granted, I'm not their employee, I'm a partner with them. But I get commissions for people using my code to purchase a flute through them. And getting that first check was surreal because I had heard of the Flute Center of New York for so long. You know, like they were sort of this entity of like, they are like the flute store out there, you know. They are the Ollivanders wand shop of the flute world. Like they have like the bookcases of just flutes, you know. It like legit looks like Ollivanders wand shop. It's like that's them, you know, in New York.
Fairy tale land.
Oh yeah, I've heard of them since I was young, you know, since I was like a teenager in Vancouver. I heard about them for a very, very long time. And to see like a check from them, like surreal. Just
Mind blowing.
yeah, surreal. Just completely like what the heck? Like what have I gotten myself into? You know? Yeah, it's that moment of like, man, I hope I don't mess this up, you know? Like
Yeah.
oh god. Like did you feel that too? Like, you know?
Pretty much every time I receive a check.
Oh my gosh. Yeah, every time.
I'm so lucky.
Yeah.
Keep working hard. Keep working hard.
Yeah. It's insane. That feeling is crazy. And it's still pretty surreal to me now.
Yeah.
Like when I get checks in the mail, I'm always kind of like, I can't believe this is happening. Like it's crazy.
I think also another feeling that I feel is massive gratitude towards those organizations that believe in us.
Yeah.
And offer us work.
I feel that. I feel that so hard.
Yeah.
I have a even weirder gig story.
Do tell.
So, this was my wind quintet, and our student wind quintet, Nachschlag wind quintet, as we called ourselves in UBC, University of British Columbia, and we were invited to perform, like just kind of be side musicians for. It was some sort of retirement party. I don't know who it was for.
I think I remember this one.
Yeah. I know. I think you remember this one.
Exciting.
Yeah, so it was some sort of retirement party. We didn't know who the people were. It was just kind of like random, really, you know. So we were contacted through our School of Music, you know, because essentially a lot of people will contact the School of Music, be like, hey, do you have student musicians who can perform for us for our thing? You know, basically they're looking for cheap labor. Okay, guys, that's what they're looking for, because we're students and we'll just basically bite at anything, you know. So anyway, we signed up to go to this retirement party at this golf course. And we, when we were, you know, because we were asking, and I wasn't involved in this. It was our oboist. So our oboist was the person who was actually like talking to them and communicating with them about what was going to happen. So our oboist told us, okay, so they've told us that food will be provided, and we will be playing for 2 hours. And there will be a break in between for us to eat. And we're like, cool. Now, you have to remember we're all students. So when we hear that there's free food, we do not eat first. We go and take advantage of the free food, right? So we show up. Turns out, first off, there's no water for us. We were expecting that we would at the very least be provided water. We asked for water, and they had no water for us.
Oh.
Yes. They only had pop.
Ew.
That's what we call, for our listeners in the United States, soda, okay? They only had soda. That's it, all right? And booze, but we didn't want to be drunk while playing. Honestly, though, we might as well have been drunk while playing. Okay, anyway. So we play on empty stomachs for the first hour, which is fine because we're used to that. We're broke musicians. We're broke student musicians. We expect to eat a meal in our break. Turns out the food that they had were all sweets.
Dessert.
It was dessert. It was all dessert. It was all pastries, cake, anything sweet.
Sugar.
It was just sugar. So we are now filling ourselves empty stomachs with pop and sweets. That's it.
Great for the instruments.
I know, right? That's it. So
Okay.
we go and play the second half, and it goes horrifically wrong, okay? Like, we get out of time with each other. We're so hopped up on sugar. We're like all going in 5 different tempi. And it's just like, it's actually insane. It was so bad. We felt so ashamed of ourselves by how badly we played this. We had rehearsed this, okay? And it was bad. It was worse than the rehearsals, you know? And so we're feeling like crap by the end of this, right? So we're just kind of like, I didn't eat that many pastries because I know myself, my stomach kind of like turns if it's only on sugar, basically.
Yeah.
So I was on like a mostly empty stomach. Also, fun fact, guys, my body does not work well with just pop in it. I get there's something in pop that makes me really bloated and really uncomfortable. Like I get a lot of indigestion. It's really horrible. I've never done well with pop ever. I have a suspicion it has something to do with high fructose corn syrup, but that is a whole nother story for another time. So anyway, I wasn't drinking a lot of pop, so I'm also dehydrated. So I'm dehydrated. I have a little bit of sugar in me. I'm just feeling awful at this point. Okay. So we're thinking this gig can't get any worse. So we're just going to very sadly pack up our instruments and leave, at the end of this gig. A guest knocked over the flower that was sitting on top of, on top of one of the tables, knocked over a flower vase, which knocked over a candle. The candle lit the table on fire, and it caused the flower to pop. And it popped up into the air because it was it got lit on fire and it popped up and then it fell onto the floor, which caused the floor to be set ablaze too. So there's a bonfire, okay, basically in the middle of this really nice banquet hall, basically. It's this bonfire, and our bassoonist ended up just saved the day, decided to the rest of the four of us just literally packed our instruments faster, and we were basically just let's just get out of here, right? No, but our bassoonist was the one who grabbed, I don't know how she found this pitcher of water because we were not given water this entire time, but she found a pitcher of water and she doused the whole thing, saved the day. She put out the fire. That was some quick thinking on her part. It was fantastic. But yeah, the rest of us literally realized that we were just packing our instruments faster to run out of there. Yeah. And that's not the end. It took us.
What happened?
So we leave, we go home. It is what it is, right? And then it took our oboist, I believe, a month to 2 months, something ridiculous. It was a ridiculous long time to track down our paychecks. But we had been told that we would get our paychecks at the beginning of the gig, and they did not. And it took her another month or two to track down the payments. And even then they tried to rip us off. They were like, oh yeah, so it's $25 an hour, right?
Was there an agreed upon rate before?
There was an agreed upon rate.
Okay.
And the agreed upon rate was $75 per person per hour.
Wow.
Yeah. And they tried to rip us all the way down to $25 an hour per person per hour. Yeah. So the hero that our oboist is fought them back until they finally paid us the amount that that they had earlier agreed upon. I'm guessing the way that she did it was by quoting what was probably said over email. 'Cause everything in writing, guys. Everything in writing. So she eventually did chase them down hard enough for them to actually pay us. The thing is, I think they were trying to get away with not paying us at all. Yeah. And that was the conclusion to the top, weirdest, and worst gig experience of my life. The end.
And most flammable. Yeah, I remember
yeah, you remember us talking about there's a bonfire in the middle of this banquet hall.
Oh gosh.
Yeah, it was so bad. It was so bad.
Wow.
It was so bad.
Yeah, mine are all just regular days compared to yours.
That was that was um a memory that I will treasure forever. You
Mm-hmm.
know, you don't always have fire in your gigs, you know? Like that's not really a thing that happens, especially with woodwinds, right? So,
Yeah,
you know.
it's one for the history books.
It is. It is. I remember it fondly now. It was an awful experience, but I don't regret having that experience.
Yeah.
Yeah. All right. We should talk now. Actually, that's a great segue into how to be professional in
Mm-hmm.
a gig situation. So we were mentioning have everything done in writing. Please do not ever agree to terms without putting them in writing.
Mm-hmm. Even if they were verbally agreed upon, ask the person nicely if they can send you via email confirmation.
Not only that, you can be the one sending them an
Oh,
email
yeah.
saying,
Yes.
as per our discussion,
Mm-hmm.
you know, we have basically, this is what, we'll do. And you can list it out bullet point form, what you're going to do,
Yep.
how much you're going to be paid, when are you going to be paid. Um, you know, Basically what you're listing out are the terms of
Mm-hmm.
what you've agreed upon to do. What's really interesting is that you can have what I noticed to be two general responses to this. One is the person on the other side is like, oh, thank God you did this for me. I don't have to worry about, spelling this out for you. Right.
Mm-hmm.
So some people will be very thankful that you followed up like that, and they'll regard you as very trustworthy, and likely they will want to work with you again.
Right.
The other types of people will never respond to you again, and the gig will go nowhere, and the gig will not happen. And this usually happens because the other person did not actually want to hold up their end of the deal.
Mm-hmm.
So it's actually a great way to filter out bad gigs.
Mm.
At least that's
Never thought of that.
that's my experience. How about
Mm-hmm.
yours? Do you have?
No, like I said, all of mine are pretty much with established ensembles with management. So it comes through the stream.
There you go. There you go.
Yeah.
I think the problem arises when there is no management.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah. Although the thing that I have learned though is when there is management, you need to be respectful of their time as well too. So when you get those emails, make sure that you respond in a timely manner,
Yes.
regardless of whether or not you're able to do the work.
Mm-hmm.
Because if you're not able to, you need to understand that the person who has reached out to you now has to go through their list and reach out to other contacts as well. So even if you're not able to make it, you still need to be professional and responsible and let them know.
Yeah, because
That's what I've
what
learned.
you might end up doing if you don't respond in a timely manner is you're holding up the entire ensemble.
Yes.
Yeah, it's very disrespectful to everyone.
Mm-hmm.
And word can get around if you are the type of person
Yeah.
that does not respond in a timely manner.
Yeah.
Yeah, word can get around.
You might count on work disappearing that way.
Yep. I would say that is one of the biggest pet peeves of people in management positions who are like personnel management positions.
Yeah.
I knew a person who was in personnel management for our orchestra. I heard exactly the same complaints. It's like, this person doesn't respond. I'm just waiting on them.
Yeah.
And it's like, yeah, word gets around. People are humans. They will talk about you if you made their life really hard by not responding.
Yep.
And if you don't respond, they're probably not going to reach out to you again, because they might just assume that your email doesn't work, right? Yep. They might assume that, you're too busy. So they're like, well, we'll just take this person off our list.
Yeah.
Yeah. Like, even if you can't make it, or if you can't do it for any reason, just respectfully respond that, hey, I'm so sorry that I have to decline this time. But I look forward to working with you guys in the future if the opportunity arises, right? Please contact me again. If the opportunity arises, I'd love to work with you guys, right? Like, even if you just respond like that, they'll be like, okay, cool, this person is really reliable, right? And they might remember you if the opportunity does arise again. They'll be like, oh, this person responded like within the day, like I'll know that I can work with them,
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And if you do respond and you say that you are able to take the gig, then the next thing you do after responding is to put that in your own calendar.
Yes.
That way you remember.
Yes.
And you don't double book yourself.
Have you double booked yourself?
Not yet, but I have close to overlapping.
Ooh.
So I have had to fly from gig to gig.
Ooh.
Not actually flying on an airplane,
right.
But I mean like commuting really quickly.
Oh, the heart pumping kind of,
Luckily, it wasn't just me.
Yeah.
It was several other players from the same ensemble who were doing both gigs. So the personnel manager
yeah,
knows. They knew.
That's great. Honestly, as long as everyone is in the know, it's fine. People are very forgiving, actually. Communication is huge. Yes. Communication is huge. If something has happened to you, send a quick email to the personnel manager and be like, hey, this is happening to me right now.
Yep.
Like,
if you have their number, call.
Yes. Call, text, get their attention as quickly as possible. Communication. Just because something is happening to you, don't try and solve your problem by yourself, man. Don't do it. Okay. Reach out to other people. Get help, to do what you need. If you have a family emergency, if you are having the emergency yourself, you're having medical, emergency, even if you can't contact them, get someone to contact them. Tell them, hey, I'm in the hospital right now. Get someone else to fill in my part. I can't do it right now. Like, don't push yourself to the point of death. Please don't do that. Right. But it's really just communication. People understand that you're human. Some people, everyone understands that sometimes things happen, and it's really,
but at the same time, the world needs to go on.
Exactly. The world needs to go on. So like, as long as the communication is there, you're fine. It's okay.
Yeah.
And because I think a lot of, at least for me, maybe I shouldn't generalize, but at least for me, I certainly sometimes felt that like I had to go to a gig or I had to show up to this thing even when I was feeling super ill because something about like only I can fill this position, or something about like like for some reason I thought that I was the only person who could do it. Right. That's not true. That's not true. Like if you're feeling ill, maybe don't show up. Actually, please don't show up. If there's anything we've learned from COVID-19, okay, don't show up. You're going to make everyone else sick. So yeah, that was a big lesson that I wish I learned earlier. Definitely. This wasn't a gig, but I was the principal flutist for my 17 person flute section in my master's institute. So I was at the San Francisco State University, and we had a 17 person flute section in our band, and I got so sick at the end of my first year that I could not play at the final concert. I couldn't do it. I was running a fever. And I was just so ill that I couldn't do it. So what I ended up doing was exactly what we're talking about here. I contacted my conductor, contacted my assistant principal and my second flutist, that and told them what was going on, scanned all my music to them, so that they had my part and they could cover my part. And I just told my conductor, who luckily he was such a kind man. He was just like, hey, Joanna, don't worry about it. I know how you play. I will not mark you down for not showing up, for this. I won't fail you. It's okay. You're doing the right thing right now. Like, this is what would be expected of you in a professional setting, that, you would get your parts covered, right? You're responsible enough to get your parts covered, but you also stay home and rest and get better, right? Yeah. And so, man, I was so blessed to have him as a director. But yeah, so like, that's what I did from home, like running a fever, but I at least still scanned all my parts over to my friends. Yep. So they had the part and they weren't missing a part, right? And so the show can still go on even though I'm not in there. Yeah. Right?
Right.
The phrase, the show must go on, is true, but it doesn't have to include you.
No, that is very true.
Right? Like, I wish that that part was explained to me earlier than that situation that happened, because I felt really bad while doing that, right? But it's only upon looking back that I realized I really did do the right thing, Yeah. The show must go on, but it doesn't have to include you. I wish that last part was told to me before.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Same. I have two similar experiences. One was in my master's degree in London, because we have orchestral, I don't remember what it's called, but it's like you play through, it's the woodwind section, you play through orchestra pieces with the head of woodwinds. And there are some parts for bassoons where we have to play on contra, and not every bassoon player out there will own their own contra bassoon, simply because not every piece calls for a contra bassoon, and it's also not a small instrument to store, and it's also not cheap. Yeah. So I was using that round I happened to be playing contra, where I was assigned contra, but a few days before I wasn't feeling too well. I wasn't running a fever, but I had a sore throat and I had a tickle in the throat as well. So I contacted my professor. I asked him, this is what's happening. I'm not sure what to do, but this is what I'm thinking. I am well enough to play, but because I know that I will be playing on the school instrument and I know my health is not 100%, I do not want to be spreading germs onto the instrument. So I said, do you think it's wise if I let the head of woodwinds know that I will cover the contra part, but on my own bassoon? So that was what ended up happening.
Wow, that's fantastic.
Yeah, just because like I cannot play on the instrument and then get everyone else sick.
Exactly.
That's the irresponsible thing to do.
Yes, it's irresponsible.
But knowing I was well enough to play, but not on the school instrument. I was like, I'm going to show up. The part is going to be covered, just on a slightly different voice.
Exactly.
And it's not a concert or anything. So yeah, they were fine with that.
It's communication.
Yeah.
Right? Because if you just showed up with your own bassoon without telling anyone anything, a lot of people would misunderstand. Right? Yeah. Yeah. But then because you communicated ahead of time what was going on, everyone knew what to expect, then they think you're really responsible.
Yeah. I hope so.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
Because I've heard horror stories of students saying, oh, I played on the school instrument and then I fell ill. Because these instruments aren't cleaned regularly.
No, they're not. They're not.
Yeah.
Like the school alto flutes and bass flutes are the same. They're not cleaned regularly. And you all share the same instrument.
I mean, you clean it after you play for flutes, but then like deep cleaning, it's usually done once a year.
If even that. uh,
let's
yeah.
let's say it is.
Let's hope it is, right?
Let's hope it is. Give them the benefit of the doubt.
Oh man, yeah, it's really communication though. Like that's really where the professionalism comes in, and I think a lot of people don't realize that. A lot of people think that the professionalism comes in from playing all the right notes, from never making a mistake, from like just being perfect basically. But that's actually not where the professionalism comes from at all.
It's part of it.
It's more like, okay, I mean, if you're going in making mistakes left and right and here and there everywhere, okay, like, yeah, that's not professional, okay? But like when you get to a professional level, everyone is already kind of playing at around the same level. There's already an expectation that you are that you are competent in what you're doing, right? So given the competency, where is the actual professionalism coming from? It's not coming from just because you're competent. I really think it has a huge part to do with how you communicate and how clearly do you communicate. Do you communicate the right things? Do you use the right language when you communicate? You really want to make it clear that you're a team player. Basically, as long as you can communicate that you're a team player and that you're thinking about the team and you're not just thinking about yourself, people are going to love working with you. Yeah.
Agree.
Yeah.
Agree. The other experience I had to call in sick that time.
Ooh. What happened that time?
And it was I think I was feeling dizzy.
Ooh, that's not good.
So as a wind player, that's a no-no, absolute no-no.
Yeah, no.
I didn't feel well sitting up, so much less playing an instrument and actually putting air through constantly.
Oh.
Couldn't
you would
do
just barf,
so,
like at that rate, you would just barf right into your instrument. Yeah. Oh no.
I might just go bunk and fall over.
Right.
Yeah, it's dangerous too, actually, with the bassoon, because if your vocal gets pokes someone somewhere.
Oh yeah, that's actually wow. I did
not good.
You're right, because there's a lot of weight coming behind it too.
Yeah, and it's not a polished end. It's somewhat of a.
It's sharp.
It's got an edge.
Oh.
Yeah. Side story: I have actually accidentally poked it into my ear when I was in high school, first learning bassoon, and it's it hurt a little bit.
Ooh. Oh my. Yeah.
Yeah. So please be careful when you're handling your instrument.
Oh dear.
Yeah. So I was feeling dizzy, but it was a gig that I really wanted to play, but no. Can't do it. So I messaged the orchestra manager, told them what was happening, and say, here's a player that you may be able to contact to fill in.
Yes.
It was the day before, luckily, not the concert.
Yeah.
So yeah, they were able to find the other player to fill in.
That is super important, because when you're thinking as a team player, what you want to think about is who can fill your spot. So essentially, it's like, how can you make this as seamless as possible for your director, for the team, right?
Yeah.
So whenever you're going to call in sick, always have a backup person that you can suggest. Be like, hey, I can't make it, but I trust this person,
Yeah.
And even better is if you went and contacted that person already and got the okay from them, right? If you already got the okay from them that they can do it, then you can actually just come in and say, hey, I'm sick. I can't do this, but that my friend can, and they're great. Yeah. And they already said they can do it, right? Because what ends up happening is you are cutting down on as much work as possible for the team, right? And oh man, people love it when you do that. Yeah, they really love it, because you essentially have done all the work on your end, right? And you don't cause extra work and extra panic for other people.
Right.
Yeah.
Or sometimes I do it the other way. I let the manager know that I cannot make it, and I say, I'm suggesting this person. I haven't contacted that person yet, but as soon as I finish talking to the manager, then I go and tell the other colleague or the other friend, saying, hey, expect a call or a message from this person because da 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 da.
Yeah, exactly. However best it works.
So again,
Yeah, in your situation, it just like do that, like do as much as you can to help make things as seamless as possible. You know, whatever you can do, it will always be appreciated by the team, and people will know from your actions that you are a team player, even if you can't show up.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah. That's so key, and no one ever really told us about this. I
You learn along the way.
Exactly. And it's so weird thinking back, because I'm like, where did I learn to do that? I don't know. It could have been that I heard that it happened to someone else. I don't know. I don't know how I learned how to do this. Do you?
I don't think I remember.
Yeah, but we both clearly learned the same thing.
Yeah. Probably just through listening, or maybe just talking to our principal players.
It could be that. Like, yeah, because usually our principal players were far more experienced than us.
Yeah. I mean, for me, in my experience, I don't think I can generalize, but when they first brought me on to play second bassoon, they would kind of give me a brief rundown of what's expected, and like if things happen, da da da.
I recall, like, this makes me realize, I recall listening in on conversations where people were, I have heard conversations of people who couldn't make it to something, but they brought someone else on, and everyone is talking about how they're so thankful that this person did that, and blah 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 blah. People talk. People that's the theme for today's people talk. Okay. And so I heard that, and I was like, oh, that's really nice, you know. But then I have also been in the situation where I was part of the team and someone didn't show up and did not tell anyone what was happening to them.
Okay.
And it just sets panic through the team, through the ensemble, you know, that everyone is kind of panicked. So for example, if, like, let's say someone doesn't show up for their part for the dress rehearsal of something, you can see it in the conductor's face. Like, have you been in those situations before too, right? Where you're looking at the conductor's face, you know who's missing, and you know that they are bothered by the fact that they're missing. But the thing is, I've also been in situations where someone is missing, but the conductor is really calm, because they know what's going on to that person. And oftentimes they will actually comfort other people and be like, hey, don't worry about so-and-so. They're just stuck in traffic, feeling ill. They're sending someone else in right now, blah, blah, blah. You know, like, the conductor will fill you in on what's happening to someone else a lot of the times, because a lot of times they can kind of sense if you're like freaking out that someone's not showing up, you know. But you can tell when they have not been informed too, and when they're standing up there looking that concerned and bothered, it makes you feel super concerned and bothered. It kind of makes the whole ensemble kind of be on edge.
Yeah, just gonna spread.
Yeah, it's not a good feeling. So, like, really be a team player, even if you can't be there. You know, you have to let the team know what's happening to you, you know? Yeah, like, it's so important. Even if you can't send the message, get a family member to send the message, get a friend to send the message, you know, like, you have to get it across what's happening to you and where you are. You have to, you know. The only exception to this case is if you were knocked out cold. All right? And you literally physically could not tell anyone where you were, right? Like, that's the only situation that I can think of that would excuse someone from communicating what's happening to them, you know. Is that, you know, like, you can still text people even if you're running a fever, you know. like you can. You might not be able to talk to them on the phone, but you can at least text them and be like, hey, this is what's happening to me, you know. Yeah, it's so weird thinking about all this stuff. I've never had to actually say any of this stuff out loud before.
Neither have I.
Right? It's really weird. But we both share the same experience too, so it has to be, there has to be some truth to this.
Listeners and viewers, let us know if it's just us.
Yeah. Because we're just kind of like, I just stopped there for a moment thinking, I've never said any of this out loud before. But clearly we're on the same wavelength. So I'm like, we definitely have like a shared experience in this. But I'm just kind of like, this is so weird.
Yeah. So we'd be curious to know, to everyone who's listening and watching, if you have any similar experiences.
Yeah.
Let us know.
Yeah, let us know. We don't hear about other people talking about this either. So
not too often.
No. Oh, it's so weird.
Yeah.
Anyway, do you think we should start talking taxes?
Oh. Yeah.
Tell us about your experience, your first
My
experience
first experience, I was so mad. Well, I mean, I was, 19, I think?
Yeah.
When I had my first experience.
Oh.
It was one of my first checks I got through a program at UBC called Artsway, where they would send you to retirement homes or hospitals to play for elderly people.
Yeah.
I loved that program, actually.
I did too. Good. I did it too. And it was,
yeah.
So rewarding.
The people that you maybe not necessarily meet, but you come across and you see, it's heartwarming to see, to be able to bring music to those people.
And they're so sweet.
They are.
They're so sweet. Yeah. Anyway,
you can see the music just light up their faces.
Yeah. Those are some of the best gigs I've ever done. Yeah. Anyway, go on.
Yeah. So we were all paid for those gigs, and then the first brush with taxes, $2 were deducted from the check. I opened it and I expected to see the full amount. I mean, silly me, teenager. Yeah. Like, ooh, getting paid. Don't need to pay anything to the government. $2 off. No. Why? But yeah, that's when I first learned that, you need to pay tax to be able to live in the country.
Yep. Be a responsible citizen and pay your taxes.
Yes.
Don't dodge taxes, guys. Don't dodge it. Don't do it. A lot of people weirdly under the table kind of weirdly encourage dodging taxes, but don't do it. It will, like, I'm not saying this as a person who's done it. I have not dodged taxes before, but I have heard of other people getting their butts, like, basically just completely whipped years later when they get audited.
It will come back to bite you.
It will come back to bite you. Like, don't dodge taxes.
And I mean, it goes back towards you in an indirect way.
Yeah, it does.
It goes towards infrastructure, to roads, to schools.
Like, don't sit there complaining about how you want, public transit to be better when you're not paying taxes, right? Yeah.
Pay your dues.
Yeah.
How about you?
So I kind of I filed with my parents for a while, I believe. So I didn't really know what was going on. And my first brush with getting my own taxes done was when I first moved here to Seattle. I ended up just kind of grabbing all of my information. So like basically all of the checks that I've ever had, a record of them at the very least. Like I knew how much I was paid, and then any expenses. So any business, any expenses that I made for my job. So getting equipment, getting sheet music, stuff like that. I had a list of all those receipts, had all the amounts ready to go. And I went to a tax person, a tax accountant, even though I really didn't need to, because it was actually very simple to do, but I had no idea what I was doing. So I ended up just paying like $80-something out of my butt for this guy to like put in a few numbers, and that was it. But that was my first experience doing it on my own. Come the next year, actually that year I already met John, my husband, and he has been doing his taxes at home with TurboTax. And so he was asking me if, you know, I wanted to try doing it by myself with TurboTax. And that's kind of what got me started to actually learning how taxes work as a, you know, basically a sole proprietor, you know, a person that's just kind of running their own self-employed business. So it was quite a bumpy road, figuring out how all that stuff worked. I also decided to actually make Just Another Flutist into an actual business. So I also had to pay business excise, or I don't really have to pay business excise tax because I don't earn enough to pay business excise tax, but I have to file my income with kind of like the business in my state, like the business, what do you call it? It's basically the state business, not bureau. I don't want to say bureau, but like a, forget, was Department of Revenue. That's what it is. So it's the Department of Revenue, and it's specifically for businesses for in the state of Washington. And so I remember having to call in and being like I was like, I'm so sorry, but I just really want to make sure that I'm putting in the numbers in correctly because I have really no one else to ask. This lady was not the most gracious lady on the other side of the line. She was like seemed really annoyed with me, and her tone of voice made it sound like I was asking very stupid questions, which you know what? Yeah, they were stupid questions. But the thing is, I still think I did the right thing to call in and make sure. And I'm not sitting there guessing if I put the numbers in the right spot. So guys, I have realized that that's on that lady. Her tone of voice is on her. It's not on me. All right. Like, I think I did the right thing to call in and make sure, because even though I felt like an idiot during and after the call, I knew for a fact I did it right, you know? Yep. And so guys, call in, ask questions. Most people will want to work with you. I think that one lady, I don't know, maybe what might have been on her off week in the month or something like that. I don't know what's happening with her. So like maybe I just called her at a bad time and she's just annoyed at everyone and probably took it out on me. I'm guessing that's probably what happened. Again, humans, right? We do stupid things, right? We behave badly sometimes. And so, you know, but yeah, guys, like call, ask for help. If you want to find out how to do it on your own, there are resources online to figure out how to file your own taxes. And yeah, so like it's been a learning curve. Things change. My career has changed. And kind of learning how to correctly file my income has been a bit of a learning curve. I do have to say that the Flute Center of New York, they were so sweet. The first year when they were issuing me checks, and I think of this very fondly. I think you can tell from the look on my face. I think of it very fondly. I thought it was so cute because I had already been filing my own taxes prior to being in contact with them. And they called me and asked me and like made sure like, hey, Joanna, you do know how to file your own taxes, right? Like, you know how, because they give me a miscellaneous, I think it's miscellaneous 99 form or whatever it's called in the States. And it's basically miscellaneous income. And so they had sent me this official form of how much they had paid me. And I used that form to fill in the correct boxes in my tax when I file my own taxes. Yep. And so I just thought that was so freaking sweet. That was so sweet of them to call and be like, just want to double check that you do know how to like file your own taxes. No other person. Well, okay. One, Dr. Bob mentioned that I should look into taxes and paying my taxes correctly. But other than Dr. Bob, no other person in the professional world has double checked with me that, like, you do know how to pay your taxes, right? You do know how to file your taxes and pay your taxes, right? Flute Center of New York.
Yeah.
They knew that I was like a youngin' in my like mid-20s, you know? And they were just like, just want to double check that you know what you're doing. And so I said, yes, I do know. Thank you so much for checking. And they were like, we knew we really didn't have to really check, but we just wanted to make sure you were okay. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And the thing is, that was so sweet. I can't think of any other like professional like partner or whoever I'm working with who would check that, you know? So sweet. I've never told anyone this, but I just thought that was the sweetest gesture. You know, they just wanted to make sure that I was okay and that I was doing everything correctly, you know?
Yeah.
Damn.
I would think it's a responsible and professional thing to do. You care about who you work with. It's okay to show it.
I think what it demonstrated to me was that they were aware that I was doing this on my own. That they were aware that I was really forging my own career in a very, like, you know, a pretty lonely path, actually. You know, like there's no handbook for what I do. And so they knew that I was on my own and figuring this all out on my own. And the fact that they reached out to check, I just like, oh my God, like, that's so nice.
Yeah.
You know,
it's good to have these people in your corner.
Yeah. So, but yeah, that's my tax story of, you know, how I figured out all this stuff works. Do a lot of research, ask a lot of questions, you know, get those questions answered, figure out what you need to do. Yeah, you'll be fine. Oh, man. Taxes, just man.
Be responsible about it. Be proactive about it.
Yeah. And I think it's fair to mention to everyone that I think both of us keep a pretty good record of our how we're paid. This is actually one of the reasons why I actually use invoices for my lessons. It's because they act as a record of being paid. So I essentially have PayPal basically be my like automated, you know, spreadsheet of sorts, you know, and that really helps. But yeah, definitely have a record of your income and your expenses. Yeah.
I have a spreadsheet that I keep that I update every month. And for students, I issue invoices as well, and because they are paying online, like e-transfer, I write down the what's that called, the reference number on my own record, paper and pen. And I keep a running log of all of that, and then I have a running log as well of all the expenses.
Like that's it's having some sort of log, having some sort of record keeping, right, is key. So you don't want to, like, in the last minute in April, like randomly start to go through everything you've ever done in the last year. You don't want to do that. You want to have at least some sort of log, even if it's like an incomplete log. At the very least, it's like 70% complete, and then you just kind of fill in the last 30% or so.
Exactly.
When you file your taxes, because let's face it, guys, we're human. Okay, so we kind of have a log going, but you really don't actually complete the log until like the week that you're filing your taxes. Come on, you know, well, that's how it works. If you have
bits and bobs everywhere that you can use to complete the puzzle, then
that
still works.
Exactly, that still works. Like, as long as you have a log somewhere, like different logs or something, you can compile them all together and then, like, you know, spit it out basically. But like, let's be real here. We're human. We probably don't have our log 100% completed by the time, you know, December 31st rolls around, you know, like that's just not what happens, guys. But you have some sort of record keeping, though. You have to have some sort of record keeping that kind of keeps itself going. And as long as you have that keeps itself going, you'll have 70% of it complete by the time you're wanting to do your taxes. Yeah. I also have never talked about that part out loud.
I've thought about that part many times, I think, but yeah, never out loud.
Same. I think about it a lot. I mean, because we have to think about it every year, you know?
I mean, every time I'm logging something in, it's
yeah,
this is very important.
Exactly.
I'm glad I'm keeping this log.
Same. But we never discussed this in music school, ever.
No. And again, I wish that this was something that someone had mentioned somewhere along the lines.
Dr. Bob mentioned it to me. It must have been in one of my coffee sessions with him or something.
Okay.
Like, it must have been. He mentioned it to me before, but you can only mention so much. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like, I think the medium that we're using right now as a podcast to talk about it, I think is really quite perfect to talk about this type of thing, especially because we both are actively doing this type of stuff, you know?
Yes.
So
you can learn along with us.
Exactly. You can learn along with us. And, you know, I always wonder about this stuff, about other musicians. I'm like, are other musicians like as like anal as me, you know, like with this stuff? Like, because I never hear about anyone talking about this kind of stuff.
Well, I know one other, it's like our mutual friend. I think they were the ones who told me about all these things and say, make sure you're keeping record.
I'm so glad. I never talked to him about this before.
I didn't actively seek him out to talk about that. I think it's just because we happen to be in a lot of the same freelance circuits.
Yeah.
Yeah, he's just mentioned it to me.
He's savvy.
He is.
He's so good. I'm not at all surprised that he talked to you about this. But I find, like, I really haven't talked about this stuff out loud before. It's weird.
Well, now we have, and we hope that whatever little tidbits of information you can take away from this, we hope that it will help you.
Yeah. We hope that it'll help all of you who are listening. We're not going to sit here and pretend that we have all the answers, because we don't.
No.
But at the very least, maybe you can just feel not so alone. You know that we're also figuring it out with you guys. And also, we just want you guys to know that we're human too. And we, you know, we know how we should do things, you know, the best or whatever, but sometimes it don't work that way, right?
Yeah. I mean, we talk about it, but
you know, ideally your log, you know, of your income and expenses is already done by December 31st, right?
Ideally.
That is not what happens. I keep trying to make that happen every year, and it never happens.
I know I have big chunks that I need to fill in.
Yes, I do too. I have huge chunks. Yeah, it's logged somewhere else, basically, but it's not in like the full compiled bit. Oh, it's so comforting to hear that someone else has the same problem. We're funny. Anyway, I feel like that's a good place to stop. What do you think?
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, guys, we're so happy that you are here to join us. If you've made it this far, I think we are all probably pretty like-minded, and you probably have pretty similar stories. So if you do, we would love to hear from you. You can contact us through our social media. We're Let's Play It By Ear on like Instagram, Twitter, Facebook. You can also email us at letsplaybyear.podcast@gmail.com. Again, that is letsplaybyear.podcast@gmail.com. Please share your stories. We're not joking, okay? You've heard us say it many times in this particular episode. These are topics that we are best friends, and we have never talked about this stuff out loud until now, you know? These are apparently our shared experiences that we've never talked about. So we would love to hear from more of you out there who have listened this far. I'm guessing you have some stories to tell too. So we'd love to hear them. So go ahead and contact us, email us. Other than that, we thank you all for joining us today. And we hope that you guys have a lovely day. We will talk to you guys again next time in our next episode. Until then, see you later and have a lovely, lovely day. Laters.
See you.
Bye-bye.
Bye.